The royal rumor mill hums. Father, activist. Future king. After his grandmother, the Queen, Prince William is Britain's most popular royal. No one expected the future king to play the piano or silence detractors. The future monarch appeared unfazed. A great pianist publicly ridiculed Prince William's musical skills, leaving him with two options: make fun or disprove them. Next, jaws dropped. Prince William played as no one expected, with cameras rolling and mistrust in the air. This performance silenced the pianist and shocked the world. Here, royalty changed their tune. Royal Gala, that altered everything. The evening was supposed to be normal for Prince William. Another great occasion, another polished presentation. The Harmony for Hope Gala, in Kensington Palace's ballroom, brought together officials, celebrities, and arts patrons to fund Commonwealth youth music education. The hall sparkled with chandeliers. Soft violins sounded in the background. The gilded invitations promised a night of elegance, not scandal. Prince William and Princess Catherine arrived calmly. The Princess of Wales will do her Christmas carol service again. They met benefactors, took photos, and chatted with young scholarship recipients, who smiled at the royal host. Everything went as planned until the last performance. The host walked on stage with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he smiled proudly. "Good evening, Your Majesties. Good evening, Windsor. A huge thank you to everyone for making this such a special evening. Please welcome Lang Lang, a pianist who has inspired millions worldwide." Formal acclaim filled the ballroom as world-class musician Lang Lang captivated the nation with her piano skills. Masterful, Lang walked to the grand piano and commanded the room. He adjusted the mic and hesitated. Room went quiet. "I've played on many stages," he said, his voice thoughtful and words powerful. "Tonight is exceptional because of the company and the cause." Eyes sweep the audience, briefly focusing on the royal table. "To be honest, recent years have shown me something troubling. Powerful people support the arts with their dollars but not their hearts." Murmurs arose. Eyebrows raised. Prince William straightened his chair. "Tonight we have royalty," Lang Lang continued. "When was the last time a royal played music? Is art merely another ribbon?" Lang Lang looked directly at William. "Your Royal Highness," he replied politely, but pointedly, "if you love music, prove it. Come play at my Royal Albert Hall concert next month. A single piece. Any part. I'm performing with Lang Lang at the Royal Albert Hall. No crown, no titles, just hands and keys." People gasped. Catherine's face shifted. William smiled slowly but clenched his jaw. Lang bowed. He then sat and played a tremendous Ruckman prelude without speaking. Murmurs filled the room as applause ended, and attendees returned to their champagne flutes. Did Lang Lang threaten the future king? Will William reply? "He won't play, surely." After then, the royal pair left quietly. Cameras flashed. Some reporters guessed. The night concluded with a decision, not a reply. What prompted Lang Lang's audacious challenge to Prince William? Does the next king dare reply? Focus on your screen, the lost childhood keys. Prince William had retired into his study while Kensington Palace's applause continued. He relaxed his collar and strolled slowly into the dimly lighted corridor to a palace section he rarely frequented. The evenings weighed heavier than his tailored jacket. Former nursery, now a little reading room. Soft recollections of childhood were concealed beneath years of royal obligation. A vintage upright piano was at the room's end. Dust clung to mahogany, its glossy finish faded with disuse. The keys, browning with age, showed a boy's handprints from almost 2 decades ago. William approached slowly and reverently. A key was a brittle G buzzed off tune, sounding bored and angered by years of silence. He grinned slightly. He recalled taking piano lessons at Ludgrove Prep School under Miss Dempsey, a gentle but firm teacher with wild silver hair and whisper-like fingers. She had told him, You play like someone who listens to the spaces between the notes. That's rare. Back then he didn't realize what she meant. He remembered his mother, Princess Diana, sitting beside him and his brother Prince Harry at that very piano. Her perfume faint, her laughter filling the room as she played silly melodies meant to make her boys giggle. Music is where feelings go when words aren't enough, she had once said, her hands lingering over the ivory keys. That memory stung now, sharper, louder than Lang Lang's challenge. William sat down slowly, the piano bench creaking beneath him. He placed his hands on the keys the way Miss Dempsey taught him. His fingers hovered there, motionless. Then he pressed one note, then another. A shaky melody formed, one he didn't fully remember, but his hands did. He played only for a minute. It was hesitant, clumsy, but not lifeless. When the final note faded, he sat in silence, the distant hum of palace staff and faint winter wind filling the room. Then he picked up his phone. "Simon," he said, calling his private secretary, "I need a piano technician here tomorrow. And find me someone who can teach quickly and quietly." "May I ask why, sir?" "I've just accepted a challenge," William replied, his voice firm. "And I need to remember who I used to be. This is what the Prince of Wales wants to highlight." He hung up and stood, casting one last look at the dusty instrument before turning off the lights. The prince wasn't sure if he could be ready in 1 month, but he knew with absolute certainty that he had to try. The hidden meant 3 days later. A nondescript black car pulled up to the discreet side entrance of Kensington Palace, far from the eyes of the press or the curious public. No fanfare, no royal guards at attention, just a short silver-haired man in a long charcoal coat, stepping out with the cautious precision of someone who had once moved faster and with great purpose. His name was Sir Edward Avery, a former concert pianist once hailed as Britain's answer to Vladimir Horowitz. Decades ago he had played in every major concert hall across Europe until a mild stroke during a performance in Berlin ended his career. He'd withdrawn from the spotlight and refused all teaching requests until now. The palace had reached out discreetly. The message had been simple. The prince requires a mentor, not for ceremony, for skill. Sir Edward was skeptical, even irritated. Royals were not his usual clientele, and he had little patience for dilettantes seeking vanity lessons. But something about the request, its urgency, its privacy, piqued his curiosity. Inside the music room, Prince William stood by the piano. Wait, he had changed into something less formal, more human. An open collared shirt and wool jumper, sleeves rolled to the elbows. His posture was that of a soldier prepared for a long campaign. Sir Edward entered without a bow, without flourish, just an assessing glance. "You called for a teacher," he said flatly. "Why?" William stared him down. "Because I've been publicly challenged, and I don't want to disgrace someone who once thought I could play." Sir Edward wondered. "Your mother?" William nodded. The older man said nothing for a moment. Then he walked towards the piano, running his fingers lightly over the lid. "When was the last time you practiced properly?" "Maybe age 11. Sir Edward gave a faint grunt. "So your muscle memory is dead. Good. We'll start fresh." He gestured to the bench. "Sit." William obeyed. "Scales, K major. Let's see what's left." William's fingers fumbled, lagging behind his mind. He missed notes, his wrist tensed. After 2 attempts he looked up apologetically. Sir Edward sighed. "You play like a man with a heavy name. Too cautious, too obsessed with appearance. Your Royal Highness, music doesn't respect titles. It only cares if you feel." "I don't want special treatment," William said. "Just the truth." Sir Edward gave the smallest nod of approval. "Then I'll give you the truth. And the truth is that if you're serious I can teach you enough to survive that stage. But it'll take every spare hour you have." "You'll have them," William said. "All of them." Sir Edward smirked. "Then we begin. But let me warn you, your fingers will bleed long before the press." The old man took a metronome from his coat pocket, set it beside the piano, and flicked it to life. Tick-tock, tick-tock. A new rhythm had begun, one not set by protocol but by passion. But what did Sir Edward mean by warning William his fingers would bleed before the press did? "Stay glued to your screen. Royal protocol versus piano practice." And so while the world turned and the crown carried on, Prince William found himself surrendering to a different kind of discipline. One not governed by court protocol but by the relentless tick of Sir Edward's metronome. Each morning began with official duties. Policy briefings, ribbon cutings, press appearances. Prince William and Kate Middleton makes his first public appearance of two. On paper nothing had changed, but beneath the surface a quiet rebellion was taking root. While aides arranged schedules, William rearranged priorities. 10-minute breaks became lunch meetings were rescheduled due to diary conflicts. Royal engagements were shaved, just enough to create breathing room for music. Every evening after the children were asleep and the palace had quieted, William returned to the music room where Sir Edward waited, punctual as always, sipping black tea and tapping one impatient foot. "You still play too carefully," he would mutter. "You don't attack the keys, you ask permission." "I've spent my whole life asking permission," William replied once. "Then stop," came the sharp response. "The piano won't curtsy to you." The lessons were brutal. William's fingers, unused to the stress, began to ache. After mere minutes, his thumbs stiffened, his pinkies trembled. Sir Edward made no allowance for pain. "You want to survive next to L. Long. You need hands like stone, and a heart like fire." At times William doubted himself. After all, how many princes had stepped out of Buckingham's shadow, only to fall flat in front of the world? Would this be any different? Yet each night the music dug a little deeper, not just into the keys, but into him. During a dinner with Commonwealth ambassadors, William discreetly tapped out scale patterns beneath the tablecloth. During a state flight to Northern Ireland, he practiced fingering exercises on the fold-out tray, using the edge as a makeshift keyboard. Even the palace driver noted the shift. His once silent commutes now filled with classical recordings. Chopin, Debussy, Liszt. "Preparing for a concert," the driver joked. William smiled faintly. "Something like that." Meanwhile the media began to swirl with speculation. Paparazzi caught glimpses of large boxes delivered to Kensington. One unmistakably marked Steinway and Sons. Headlines screamed, "Is the prince planning a performance?" But no official comment was issued. Within palace walls, silence was strategy. Only Catherine knew the full truth. Often she'd watch from the doorway as William practiced, exhausted yet determined. Once as he struggled through a passage in Dussy's Clair de Lune, she quietly placed a cup of tea beside him. "You're not doing this for them," she said. "You're doing this for her." William nodded. He didn't need to ask who she meant. The prince had faced war zones, political unrest, and relentless press coverage. But nothing had tested him like these keys, and the most difficult notes still lay ahead. Catherine's secret gift. But just as William began to question whether music alone could carry the weight of memory and expectation, Catherine left him a gift that changed everything. It was late, well past midnight, when he finally returned to their bedroom, hands sore and eyes heavy. His rehearsal had gone poorly. Sir Edward had walked out mid-piece, muttering something about emotion being more than posture and expression. William, for all his composure, had slammed the piano lid in frustration, and retreated upstairs in silence. On the bed sat a single envelope, no royal wax seal, just his name, Will's, written in Catherine's neat script. He opened it expecting a kind note or perhaps a gentle nudge to rest. But inside was a photograph. It was old, slightly faded at the corners, clearly taken during his childhood. In it Princess Diana sat at the same piano now restored in the nursery. She shifted about, looking rather reluctant, before the persuasive professor led her off to the piano. She was mid-laugh, one hand on the keys, the other wrapped around a much younger William, who looked up at her with unfiltered joy. Behind the photo, a second slip of paper. Catherine's handwriting again. "She believed in you." "So do I." William sat on the edge of the bed, unmoving. The palace, quiet as it was, seemed to pulse with memory. He stared at the image for a long time, tracing his mother's face with a thumb he hadn't realized was trembling. For so long he had seen music as an obligation, another skill to master, another expectation to meet. But in that moment, it wasn't about Lang Lang or the press, or proving he could survive a performance. It was about Diana. She had played not to impress, but to connect with her sons,
with the world, with herself. William stood and walked back down the hall, photographs still in hand. The lights of the nursery music room glowed faintly. As he entered, he sat at the piano without warming up, without scales, without Sir Edward's voice in his ear. Instead he played not for technique, not for perfection, but for her. The melody was quiet and uncertain. Debussy again, though not quite as written, his own version shaped by memory more than sheet music. A lullaby of the past, rewritten by the present. When he finished, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. It felt whole, and from that night forward, William stopped practicing to when he started playing to remember. But what made Prince William trade perfection for memory? And why did that moment quietly shake the world? Stay glued to your screen. The Prince, the Pianist, and and while William now played with renewed purpose, the outside world was beginning to take notice. And it wasn't long before the press turned the entire performance into a national spectacle. It began with a blurry photo, one that never should have existed. A long-lens paparazzi, shot from across Hyde Park, capturing Prince William inside the palace's West Wing, seated at the baby grand piano. Though grainy, the image was unmistakable. The future King of England, sleeves rolled, head bowed in deep concentration over the keys. The tabloids had a field day. Pence practices for royal showdown, screamed one headline. William versus Lang Lang, Battle of the Keys, teased another. The Daily Mirror even ran a betting line on whether he would hit a single correct note. Across breakfast tables and evening broadcasts, the nation speculated wildly. Some called it inspiring, others called it madness. Royal aides scrambled to contain the narrative, but it was already slipping through their fingers. Rumors swirled of secret rehearsals, imported Steinways, and a reclusive master coach smuggled into the palace, under a false name. At the center of it all, William remained calm, at least publicly. He declined interviews, issued no statements, and carried on with his official duty. But behind palace walls, the pressure mounted. Lang Lang, by contrast, was enjoying the limelight. During a BBC interview, filmed in a grand London concert hall, he was asked directly about the upcoming performance. "I've always respected the British royal family," he said with a smooth smile. "But I must confess I was surprised by the prince's acceptance. It takes courage and perhaps a little recklessness." The interviewer laughed. "Do you think he has a chance?" Lang Lang's smile lingered just long enough to deliver his message. "Let's just say the stage is a great equalizer." That clip went viral within hours. Inside Kensington Palace, Sir Edward scoffed. "Reckless, is it? We'll show him reckless." But William wasn't angry. He was focused. Each night now bled into the next. The music room became a sanctuary. The rest of the world locked outside its doors. His playing improved, not in flawless execution, but in texture, in vulnerability. Sir Edward began adding new challenges: improvisation, expressive contrast, changes in tempo. "Lang Lang will play like a machine," he told William. "You must play like a man." Catherine kept the household grounded. She fielded curious questions from the children, especially George, who asked why his father was doing piano homework after bedtime. William smiled. "Because even grown-ups have dreams, buddy." Still, the world outside pressed harder. A viral parody clip circulated on social media, overlaying William's rehearsal footage with slapstick piano sound effects. It stung, but he let it pass, because for every joke there was also support. Letters poured in from across the country. Elderly women who once played piano in village halls. Teenage boys who hated music class until now. Veterans who said it was the first time in years they had seen a royal take a genuine risk. The pressure was real, but so was the purpose. And with the concert at Royal Albert Hall only 10 days away, William wasn't playing to silence the critics anymore. He was playing to be heard. The Royal Albert reckoned. As the final days ticked down and the world waited to see whether a prince could hold his own against a master, the stage was being set for a night that would redefine royal tradition and challenge everything William thought he knew about himself. Royal Albert Hall shimmered under the floodlights, its iconic red brick glowing like embers. Against the cold London night, cameramen jostled for position, while attendees, an eclectic mix of aristocrats, Artists, diplomats and curious onlookers filled the velvet seats in anticipation. Backstage, William stood alone. He wore a tailored black suit, stripped of medals and honors. No regalia, no ribbons. Just a man about to step into a world that judged by feel, not bloodline. On the table beside him sat a worn photograph of Diana, and the words Catherine had written, "She believed in you, so do I." He exhaled slowly, feeling his heartbeat sync with the steady thrum of the crowd beyond the curtain. Lang Lang performed first, the musical superstar Lang Lang, who's just played a concert and masterclass, dazzling the audience with 3 jaw-dropping solo pieces. His final flourish on Rachmaninoff earned a standing ovation that lasted nearly a full minute. Then silence. A single announcement rang through the hall. For the evening's final performance, a duet. Gasps rippled through the audience. William emerged from the wing. The cameras flashed, but he didn't flinch. Lang Lang waited at the first piano bench, expression unreadable. William took his seat at the second. The lights dimmed, a hush fell, and together, without fanfare or introduction, they began to play Clair de Lune. 2 men, 2 pianos, one fragile, shimmering thread of music binding them together. What followed wasn't flawless, but it was unforgettable. But what unfolded between William and Lang Lang on stage that night made perfection irrelevant. Stay glued to your screen. A standing ovation, and a royal rebirth. And as the final note of Clair de Lune faded into silence, what followed was not an explosion of applause, but a stillness so profound it felt as though the entire world had paused to breathe. The audience at Royal Albert Hall remained frozen for a beat longer than expected, an unspoken acknowledgement that they had just witnessed something rare. Not perfection, but vulnerability. Not spectacle but soul. Then it came. The first clap was hesitant, almost cautious, but within seconds it spread like fire. Applause thundered through the historic hall, not just for the music, but for what it represented, a future king who had dared to be human. William stood and bowed, sweat beading lightly at his brow, hands still trembling. Lang Lang, ever the consummate performer, stepped beside him and offered a bow of his own, not just to the crowd but with a glance to William, a bow of respect. Backstage, Catherine was waiting. She wrapped her arms around him the moment he stepped off stage. "You did it," she whispered, "and not for them." Sir Edward, normally stern, nodded sometimes. "Well," he said, "you didn't crash and burn." Miraculous, really. Later that night, as the reviews poured in and social media erupted, William sat alone in the palace's music room. The old upright piano's broken jaw key restored. He gently played the keys, not to practice, not to perform, but as a man who had found his way back to a part of himself he never knew was lost.